It's warm in here.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. To the
Welcome.
Citizen Review Board, meeting of May 2nd. We have a quorum, so in a moment, we will open the meeting. I'd like to say welcome to Cynthia Brunson.
Thank you.
First meeting. You've been approved by Common Council and sworn in, right?
Yes, I have.
Thank you. We're glad to have you here.
Glad to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Cynthia Brunson, born and raised in Syracuse, New York. I am a grandmother, and I have 3 children. Actually, my daughter passed away on April the 7th. She is now watching over us. I am recently retired and ready to return all of my work that I've done in Syracuse back to Syracuse.
Glad to have you.
Cynthia, have you met everyone on the board? Probably not.
Jill, Matella, Dan, Ray, May, Dana, Ruth, Peter, Mary, Lori.
She met everybody.
Wait, 1199 and Carlos,
Carlos. It's a C name.
something like that. Clifford. I was doing good.
Yeah, you were.
Nice to meet you.
You're
You
good.
too.
It took some of us months to be able to do that. So.
I still don't.
Signs had nothing to do with it.
Oh, I wasn't even reading the signs, or I would have known he was Clifford. Oh, my bad.
Okay,
All right.
Renee,
so,
I was on the,
first item, approval of April meeting minutes. I'd like to take a motion to approve April meeting minutes. Who'll make a motion?
I make a motion.
May made the motion, second. Cliff second. Any comments or questions about the meeting minutes? Okay. All in favor of approving the meeting minutes?
Aye.
Any opposed? Everyone was in favor. No abstentions? One abstention? Letitia Holmes abstains. Sorry?
She wasn't at the April meeting.
Oh. She was not at the meeting. Thank you. Okay, we did chairperson's report. We have welcomed our newest member. I would like to Priscilla is absent, but I would like to recognize that we now have an 11-member full board for the first time any of us can remember.
Yay.
Certainly since I've been on the board, so that's really good news. And we also, a comment on that, we also have a system in place where Mattia and Renette will be carefully tracking if someone resigns or retires or is removed or whatever, we'll know the date and we will notify the Common Council immediately so they have adequate time to find a replacement, or the council or the mayor's office, whichever it is, and we'll keep track of the time. So if it doesn't come up in a timely manner, we have, I think, 60 days after. If we don't see a new name within 60 days, we get to nominate to the council or the mayor's office. So we'll make sure we're keeping track of that from now on. Last week, we had the Common Council budget meeting. Renette and I and Cliff were there. Anybody else there? Common Council and intern was there, thank you. You wanna make any comments about the budget meeting?
I think the budget meeting went very well. I believe they asked a lot of good questions. We had answers to the questions, that they asked. We did not reduce our budget, and they didn't ask us to. They seemed to be okay with the amount that we were asking for, so we're looking forward to the budget being approved.
because last time they did ask us to reduce it, so
They
that is
asked
good.
everybody across the city. They did ask again, and, I made the stake that we could not reduce our budget any more than where we were already at if we were going to be effective. So,
Good for you.
And good for them for believing it.
So, Police Liaison Committee. So, We have not had an active police liaison committee meeting for a while. This week, Renette and I met with the police liaison committee, so it was important, I had to get this straight in my head. There are 3 police officers appointed by the chief who constitute the police liaison committee. So our ordinance says the chief will appoint a liaison committee consisting of 3 officers. We'll come back to that. We have a police relations committee. So there will be joint meetings of our police relations committee with the department's police liaison committee.
When will that take place?
We're about to schedule that. What we had was an initial discussion
Okay.
of issues, and so we gotta get dates and propose some dates. We'll come back to that.
You know, I'm not on here, but I was on that.
I'm gonna add you back. I don't know what
I
happened.
wanna be on that committee.
You are on.
I'm out. We're gonna come back to
Yeah.
committees in a minute. So, what
In fact, I
Renette
probably
Ray and I
was
discussed
at
with
the last meeting anybody went to.
No, you missed that one.
Oh,
Okay, we'll come back to committees in a minute. So Ray and I met with the 3 officers. It was Mark Russin, who many of us have met. He's an assistant to the chief, and he's involved in training and a lot of other things. He was at the Citizens Academy some of us attended a year ago. And he is very interested in a relationship with the CRB. The second one was a lieutenant or captain, Masengo?
Lieutenant Masengo, I want to say.
Okay. He is in charge of training, and he was also familiar from the police, from the academy last year. And kind of, my impression of him, easy to get along with, wants to cooperate with the CRB. And the third one is a Captain Kavanaugh?
Captain Kavanaugh, he's the one out of the northeast. I think he's the northern district of the
Right.
city. He's one of the ones that was just recently appointed as a captain for a particular district.
Right, they've created 3 districts now, and he's captain of the northern district. He's a former union board member, has a lot of union background, and talks like a union guy.
So my question is, the 3 guys that you are speaking of right now, are you referring to the 3 guys that they just appointed over those 3 districts?
No.
Okay.
The three that we're talking about right now are the police liaison committee.
Okay.
They are not the 3 district captains.
Okay.
One of them is a district captain.
One
for
of
the
them
north.
just happens to be a district captain. Gotcha.
One of them is a district captain for the north side. So what we talked about is, we kind of reviewed what the ordinance says, which is basically that the police liaison committee will be a resource for the CRB to help us with information about policies, procedures, and other issues about the police department. So we talked about the need to meet on a regular basis. We did not establish a schedule to meet. We did talk about some of the things that we want to bring to them and for discussion. And Captain Kavanaugh, we had some general discussion about the CRV's role. And Captain Kavanaugh presented some of his concerns, which were basically the union position that we've heard before. You have, police officers aren't gonna come and testify because you're asking them to put their careers on the line, testifying. No one's testifying under oath, so your complainants can lie all they want and get away with it. And police have to testify under oath when they are being, investigated by their own department. So therefore, from Captain Kavanaugh's point of view and the union point of view, the CRB probably shouldn't exist and the internal investigation should be enough. He didn't quite say that, but that was pretty clearly the implication of his position. So we have some work to do to
Sounds
get him on our side. Cliff?
And this is to you and Renette. Did either one of you let them know that we took the, measures that we were supposed to, as far as holding people accountable?
Yes,
for-
I reiterated the
Yep.
fact that if we discover that a complainant is inconsistent in their story or lying, then typically it doesn't make it to a hearing. And that the board weeds those out earlier on than having it end up at a hearing. So I tried to explain to him that we close cases, they go to no hearing when we find those inconsistencies. So if we attend a hearing, it's because there are questions that still need to be answered, and we are hopeful that the police department will attend the hearing so that we can ask them some more questions. So
Then we put something in law as well, like, pertaining to, if anybody gives,
well, yes, in the complaint form,
False
it does
statements?
state that if you give a false statement, you can be prosecuted under the penalty of perjury.
Right.
He said, but that still doesn't guarantee them that they won't lie on the complaint. And he said that the officers, when they make a false report, they sign that under a higher, penalty, of prosecution than the complainants do. So it's still going to be his position that the complainant will still lie, because what has been the history of somebody, taking a complainant to court for lying on a complaint. And he basically used the analogy that they could be taken to court and would be, if caught lying in a report, then a citizen would be.
they would still be held accountable under punishment of law though, right?
That's what it says, but no one has ever prosecuted them, is
Right.
basically what he's saying. So therefore, no one really holds them to the fire if they were to lie.
But that's only because we just put it in place.
Well, I don't know how long it's been on the complaint form, but all I was trying to reiterate to him that we usually find out early enough on if a complainant is lying, and you won't be having a hearing on it.
Okay.
We also talked about the fact that many of our complaints don't get to a hearing in the
Yeah.
first place,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and very often, officers are exonerated, or the hearing is unfounded. We talked about that pretty openly. I think they appreciated that. I think we're not going to easily convince people that are taking the police union's position that the CRB shouldn't have the right to do this, and we very clearly said, here's the law. We are required to do what we're doing, which is to take complaints, hold hearings, and make determinations. And the chief gets to decide what to do ultimately, and we're okay with that. The chief has made commitments to do a number of things. He's made commitments to keep us better informed about the decisions that he makes, which
about
is
that
in the ordinance. He's committed to reestablishing the police liaison committee, which he's done. He's committed to reviewing and revising the use of force policy, which they are currently doing. And so we feel like, you know, in some very important ways, we're moving in the right direction. And he has committed to a big one, working with the Office of Professional Standards on the backlog of cases that they have, that we have not gotten yet, and to try to increase that backlog. So we brought up all those with this committee. We let the three of them know, these are concerns that we have, we've talked to the chief about them, and we're committed to working to make sure that those things are all in place, including the old cases that OPS has.
Peter, I have a question or a statement. In regards to lying, wasn't it just recently, about a month ago, Officer Moran was, indicated that he falsified his police report? Isn't that a form of a lie?
Yeah, I saw something about that, and I didn't really pay a lot of attention to it, so I don't know about that.
Just one thing, I'm just feeling something unpersonal, can we not say lying and maybe say allegedly or inconsistency?
Allege, falsifying a report.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The last thing we talked about with them was our list of recommendations, our summary list of recommendations. We have a two-sided sheet that summarizes the recommendations we've made over the last several years, and decided that that will be at the top of our agenda for when we meet, to review those. Mark Russin felt like we can take care of a number of those that have probably been implemented already. We can kind of check them off and reduce that list down to a more manageable list of things to talk about. And what we do with that will be up for discussion, whether, you know, they say this is impossible, and we say, oh, well, we gotta talk to our lawyer, you know, I don't know where we go from there.
And they're gonna explain exactly why it's not possible, you know, based upon whatever the reason is, and we can, you know, go from there. But at least we get an understanding as to why it's not possible.
So,
So I think that's a plus.
we'll schedule a new meeting, another meeting soon, we'll
No
talk
guidance.
about dates shortly, and then schedule some regular meetings with them. I think it was a good start.
Peter? I think if we continue to stress the backlog,
Yeah.
they know we're not going away whether they want us to or not.
Right.
And if we can get on a page where we're doing our investigations at the same time, and we have our hearings in a timely manner, it might be, I don't know, but it
Yeah.
might give us a little bit more credibility and respect,
Right.
rather than asking someone 2 years later if they remember what they
Yes.
said.
Good point. And Mark Russin brought up something that we said we would be willing to think more about. He said, a lot of the cases, he said, if we set aside for a moment what the ordinance says, the ordinance says if they get a case, it comes to us and we investigate. If we get a case, it goes to them and they investigate. Mark was saying that they have added a person to ops just recently.
They what?
They have added one position.
Added a person to
Yeah,
ops?
to ops, trying to catch up. But they also have a lot of cases, they get cases, we all know as a board that some of the cases we get are easy to say, there's no case there. If Mark's position was, if they could be relieved of the requirement to investigate every single case, if we determine it's not gonna go to a hearing, that would reduce their backlog of cases and make the whole thing flow easier. So on the surface, that seems like a suggestion possibly worth pursuing. It would require, my understanding, it would require a change in the ordinance, which is a number of steps that, you know, we're not prepared to start right now. I think we'd have to look at all the implications of that, but that was a suggestion. Dan?
Do we have any statistics on what percentage of the various cases are heard where we find positively, find negatively, or are dismissed?
Yes,
It's in our annual report.
it's in the annual
Email.
report, quarterly reports, and then I talk about them when we, talk about how many cases came in and how many we processed and things of that nature. So we try to we talk about it pretty much every month, where we talk about what came in, and the categories and kind of, you know, how many cases we're gonna look at today. And then when you look at the meeting minutes, it'll tell you how many cases were reviewed at that point in time and what number went to a hearing. So,
And you made them aware of it as well.
Oh, yeah, we talked a bit about that with them.
but some of it is, it's different to make them aware on paper than it is verbally and expect them to go read it. Even if you provide it to them, it does sound better when you personally tell
Yeah,
them
absolutely.
it than it is to expect them to
Absolutely.
read it over. So I think continuing to have conversation with them puts the numbers in front of them sooner and reminds them, you know, our percentage, as Dan is talking about, that go to a hearing, that are, closed without a hearing, or are closed for lack of jurisdiction. The more we keep pointing those things out, we start to build a better relationship with them as to, and now they're understanding which cases we're taking to a hearing and why. But as of right now, there is a belief that we take everything to a hearing and we believe the complainants all the time. And, you know, that kind of thing, that's the perspective. So we have a road to work on, but at least it's got 2 lanes.
And we just gotta continue to keep referring them to take time to look at the website for the statistics.
Yeah, we also, Renette and I put some work into reducing the volume of the annual reports. And there are too many pages in there. And Renette followed up a couple of sessions we had, and she's reduced it considerably and eliminated some things that were either confusing or contradictory or repetitive. And so we've cut down the number of pages, and we'd like to get to the point where we could reasonably expect the officers on the police liaison committee and the common council members of the public safety committee to actually read the thing.
Absolutely.
We'll talk about it.
Absolutely.
I don't know that Mark Russin may be the only person outside the CRB that's read the thing.
Oh, is he reading it?
He, according to him,
He
has
said
read
in
it carefully,
preparation
has
for the
gone
grant
back
case.
through years,
Alright.
knows about all the recommendations that we, partly because he wants to back up his position that the CRB shouldn't be finding officers guilty, because they don't do anything wrong.
Wait, Mark Russin feels that way?
He didn't say that, but he pointed out that he has gone through years of recommendations and findings. And he doesn't say the kinds of things that the union president says, but his position is to defend police officers.
But I also wanna point out that he was clear on saying that the intent of the ordinance was not so that the CRB was put in the position that it was at the time of the grant case. So the way the ordinance was written, it was not written so that we could be parties to lawsuits and things of that nature. That was not the intent. It was intended to be an oversight agency for the police department, for a community that felt like going to the police department and filing a complaint was going nowhere, or that they could not internally police themselves. So he understands the intent of the ordinance. That's key. But we have gone to the weeds and, you know, with a lot of things, but he at least understands what the intent was. And so now we have to continue to build upon the fact of teaching everybody else what the intent is, and to stop thinking that the CRB is a liability to the city just because we have been brought into these lawsuits and we have been spoken of, but that was not the intent of the original ordinance. If you read it, it does not say for those things. Read the ordinance carefully, it does not use that language. So we just have a road to go in order to increase awareness as to the intent of the CRB in the public, at the police department, with the council. It's just a learning curve, and everybody has to try to get on the same page, and that's what we're working on. We have things that we have to overcome, but at least he understands why the CRB was initially created in the first place.
I think you're
That's a
really
step in
educating
the-
them on it.
That's a step in the right direction, and I think we just need to leave it there.
So is it your intention to have, just like the CRB meets monthly, is it your intent to set up to meet with them on a monthly basis
I
or
would
sometime?
I would love for us to meet on a monthly basis, but it may turn out to be a quarterly basis, and there's, 3 months in each quarter, so at least once a month, once in a quarter.
In a quarter.
Which I don't know if that means we put it in the middle of the quarter, so you can review what happened the month before, in the middle, or where it goes, but
Right.
at least if we can meet 3 times a year, I think that that's productive. We met in January of 2018, I wanna say was the first time the police liaison committee met, and we haven't met since.
Okay,
So I just wanted, we're making progress. We at least got a new one going.
Right.
And we're having the initial meeting, and it did start off in a positive light, and I think we all have room to improve on both ends.
Absolutely.
So,
Okay,
Appreciate you.
so let's move along. May 11th, week from Saturday, we have our board training. We're gonna have the people from Interfaith Works back to facilitate. Most of us can make it. I tried to reach everybody, and there were a couple of people that, no matter what we did, it came down to the 4th or the 11th, and a couple more people were available on the 11th. So Saturday the 11th at 10 o'clock at the Union Hall on Clinton Street. And we'll keep it to 2 hours. There'll be refreshments there, so try to show up a little early and get your coffee and refreshments before 10 o'clock.
Are you bringing the refreshments?
Sorry?
Are you bringing the refreshments?
What was that date again?
We'll be all taken care of. If anybody wants to bring something, feel free. I'm not gonna do a plan. CRB study, Teresa,
That's what
Dr.
we said.
Rocha Beardall has been admitted to,
Where's that?
given her doctorate by Cornell.
All right.
She
Good for her.
completed her doctorate, her dissertation, and she's completed her work with the CRB. I haven't talked to her directly since then. She's been in and out of town. She's living in Syracuse, intends to stay here. She is teaching at Virginia Tech,
Oh, that's far.
on the western edge of Virginia.
The hell of
So
a-
she's commuting.
Hell of a commute.
Yeah, I don't know if she's going back and forth every week, or if she can arrange her schedule a little, I don't know, but her husband is here working for the school district, her kids are here in school, and she says they're staying there. But this is a job they're supporting her and doing the work that she wants to do, so, when I talk to her again, I will ask her about access to her actual study. She had said a while ago that she's had some input, some information for us. She said the study's not gonna really be worth much to you. It's from a very academic point of view. And the whole study is really not gonna be particularly informative for the CRB in its work. But a lot of information she came up with, which she has talked about and supplied us with, have been very helpful.
Is she gonna graduate, or she's done this semester, is that it?
She's done. She has gotten her
she's done.
doctorate.
Oh, really? Congratulations.
Yep. Board member contact information, you have a new sheet, is it green?
No, we just
You
need
have
to
one?
make sure that, everybody's contact information is updated, to make sure we at least have 2 phone numbers or something, just in case, in the office, so that we can readily get available, just in case something goes on, or, so just, it may not be in there, but it's
Okay.
just to, as a reminder, make sure that your contact information is clear. If you know you changed your telephone number a few times, and, you know, I might have it, but we may not have it on the sheet, just make sure we have it.
Okay, Mattia has volunteered to reach out to people and check with them. So, a main phone number and a backup number, proper
I have
email.
one now.
If you only have one, that's good. Okay. Administrators report.
All right, so in terms of activity report, so I just finished the 2019 first quarter report, finished it today. And so when I think about those numbers, I'll just tell you, and it'll be in the report. But, in the first quarter of 2019, we received 23 cases. We processed a total of 14 cases, and we had 1 hearing in the first quarter of 2019. Okay?
Only one,
Only 1 hearing
wow.
out of 14 cases that we looked at. Okay. In terms of the number of complaints that we have in its totality for the month of, well, for 2019, we have a total of 34 cases in total. So in the month of April, we received 11 new cases in the month of April, okay? And you can see the breakdown on your sheet that looks like this. You can see the breakdown as to what the allegations are, that have come out of those complaints, okay? Our monthly financial report, you can see it, it's the lovely paper that turns green for the money. We have spent some money with regard to our copier, with regard to telephone calls that we accept from, the jail. When we request medical records on people's behalf, we spend money to pay for medical records, and we have, paid our IA Pro bill so that our software is up to date. For once, Mattia and I have a, training session which will last about 3 hours as to how to use IA Pro. But now we're all up to date with the right software, we're all up to date on all of our bills and things of that nature, so we're moving right along.
Is that training gonna happen soon?
Yes, I just have to schedule it on a day that we can spend 3 hours and just knock it out, so it's coming up before the end of this month. In terms of, I gave you the 2018 annual report. Everybody should have received a copy in your email. I welcome your feedback, send it to me, so hopefully I can get it up and, on the website and sent out to all your common counselors, and everybody else.
Did you send that to the police department too?
No, because I wait for everybody to tell me it's okay
Oh,
first.
okay.
So, look at it, review it, let me know your thoughts, think it should be shorter, think I missed something, let me know, and let me know as soon as possible so we can get that done. And then I'll be sending out the 2019 report for you to read, it'll be in your emails tomorrow, since I finished that today. Read that one, let's get it out, let's take care of it, and let's move forward. In terms of the 2017, 2018 cases outstanding from ops, it is detailed in your 2018 report, under the statistics category. And if we wanna talk about that briefly, we have a total of 103 cases that are outstanding from 2017 and 2019 at the time this was calculated. So total, we have 72 cases that are outstanding from 2017 through 2018. And Mattia and I have sent letters out to all 72 of the complainants advising them where the status is on their case, make sure I have your telephone number, make sure I have your correct address, all of that kind of stuff. So when the report does come from ops, we should be ready to roll, let's go. So we have done that.
Have we gotten any responses from ops about when we can expect
No,
some of the old cases?
No, so, and just to tell you, I added one more 2017 case this morning, so that makes 73 outstanding cases. Because I found another one that was still out there.
Have you gotten any response from any of the, 73?
Yes, they have been calling the office and, you know, they actually were happy. You know, we were kinda like, what, what are they gonna say? Oh, I'm happy to hear that you haven't forgot about me. Oh, this is great. You know, that kind of thing. So I think that it was a positive move to do, just so that they knew where they were at, and go from there.
What's the time frame you've given them to respond one way or the other?
The complainants.
Where,
So if I receive the ops report and I have not been contacted by the complainant and I try to reach out to them and I get nothing, then that's when we're gonna have to review it and see if it's, because based upon what the ordinance says, we cannot proceed, if the complainant doesn't wanna proceed, we can't, process cases anonymously. So basically, we have to try to schedule the hearing with the complainant, and they can no-show to the hearing and we can move forward, but we can't just
close it?
close it.
If we get no response from them, ultimately we close the case.
Right.
And they have up to,
Yeah, that was my
But
question.
the thing is, previously, we decided that the person had 3 years to reopen the case. Now, we all know that there's an 18-month deadline for an officer to be disciplined if we focus on that aspect. So if a person filed a case in 2017, the incident could have happened in 2017, or it could have happened in 2016. And it's the 18 months from the date of the incident. So even if we allowed them to open the case again and it's been 18 months, we can do that if they understand that it's,
relevant to,
there's no
punishment.
there's no punishment for the officer, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't review it if we're gonna make a policy change, you know, a policy recommendation to the police department.
Officer Grinnells has a question.
My question is, when we send the original letter to the complainant, do we put on there that he or she has on there until such and such a date to file a complaint? It should be in the letter.
So the complaint was already filed, which initiated the
But
letter.
our complaint I'm talking about.
Yes, so they initially filed a complaint with our office, which generated a complaint.
All right, so then if we respond to them, we should put in a specific date.
So
that
if I don't hear from you by X,
if
Y,
I
Z
don't
date.
hear from you by this,
That
we
makes
close the
sense.
case.
So typically we do that so typically that happens after I've tried to contact them again. So we've made this initial contact, we still don't have the ops report, so technically I can't really
Right.
even move
Right, we
forward on
can't,
this.
that's a problem.
So that's why I'm saying I didn't put it in this initial letter, because I don't have the ops report to even move forward.
Absolutely.
So I don't wanna say, oh, come to, respond to me by June 5th, and I don't have the ops report, because it's irrelevant if you respond to me then if I can't investigate.
That now becomes a positive argument in our case when we go to the police committee, because, or when you have your meeting, but you can say, we only have this much time from the date of the incident, not from the date of the complaint or the date when we feel like we ought to start. So when we send out an original letter, we put this date on it. If we don't get the reports, then we're gonna extend it.
But we have to be careful, Dan, with how we interact with them on that, because let's just imagine that there might be someone in a police department that would like us not to be able to discipline a particular officer, if they stall on getting that case to us, there's, in effect, very little we can do. So we
My-
have to work with the chief's office and with the liaison committee and establish a pattern of them getting us our cases on time.
At the, you may have missed it, I didn't say it loud enough maybe, but I say you have until now, and then when we notify the police department, we say that we notified them that this is the final date that they can file a complaint. However, if we don't get something from ops, at our option, we can extend that date.
Absolutely, and that's what we
How's
have.
that sound?
That's what we have been doing, because technically, ops is supposed to complete their investigation within 30 days from receiving the
We
complaint.
always called it oops.
Well, oops, yes. So,
I like that better.
they
Trying to be
technically,
nice.
yeah, they technically are past their deadline already. You know what I mean? So now, because the whole CRB process is supposed to only take 90 days. They get 30 days, we get 30 days, hearing if it's going to be held within 30 days. So 90 days total is supposed to take this process. That's not happening. So I get what you're saying, but I think that putting something in the information in the email that says to them when we send it, so we have tracking, that says the 18-month deadline on this complaint is XYZ. It's already taken them 6 months to review one. I mean, that's like, oh, well, let me slide that one down a little further. I mean, it just,
But I think Dan's point is about the complainant has the obligation to respond to us.
Yes.
And we can try to be clearer about that if you don't respond to us, we may dismiss
but
your
the point
complaint.
is, I don't wanna do it so early because I can't even move forward until I get the ops complaint. So if I say June 5th, and I don't have the ops report, am I now gonna punish the complainant because they didn't give me the report on, they didn't make contact on June 5th, and I'm still waiting for this report? I'm not doing that.
No, you
So
can't.
I am going to then, yes, when we get the ops report, I am then going to contact the complainant and see if they still want to proceed. And if they haven't been in contact, I send letters, it gets returned, I make phone calls, I can't reach them. That's one thing. But I just don't feel like me telling the complainant, you need to contact me by XYZ date initially is the right way to go, when I still don't have the report. And these are cases that are still outstanding. I still don't have the ops report, but I'm letting you know, hey, we still care.
Okay, so I guess that's what I
Mr.
didn't
Grinnell's, one
understand.
more.
So these are cases where you still don't have the ops report,
Correct.
okay, that you're talking about.
Correct.
Okay, so I have another question.
Yes.
And excuse me if I'm not being clear.
Go ahead.
We have the ops report, let's just say we have the ops report, okay? Did the complainant already do a report as well?
That's what initiated the complaint.
Okay, that's what initiated okay. So
Yes.
we got both things that we need to go forward,
Yes,
okay?
now we just need to move forward. So now I have the ops report, I'm now contacting the complainant. If I schedule an appointment, you missed the appointment, okay, really, are we gonna fall through with this?
Right.
If I make a telephone call, I get no answer. I'm then sending a letter to the next address and it says, hey, I tried to reach you by telephone, I have been unsuccessful, please contact our office. And at that point in time, I'll put a date in there so that then we can move forward.
Okay.
Makes
But I'm
sense.
not going to do it initially when right now I can't move
Right.
forward, so I'm not going to say, give it to me by this.
So that makes sense, you covered everything that.
Yeah, and I wanna
was
make sure
wondering.
that you guys can see that we've made XYZ attempts, and this is the reason why we're closing it, not for the lack of us not wanting to
Okay.
proceed with
And
the.
you've already made the chief aware of it as well, right?
Correct, so he has a list of all the 2017 cases and 2018 cases that are still outstanding. On his list, it does have the 18-month deadline, and it does show how many cases in red where the deadline has already passed.
Okay.
And the Office of Professional Standards has that list as well.
No.
So,
Okay.
So we need to move on. Mr. Grinnells, did you have a
I have
last
a
comment?
question.
My point of all this was, it appears as if we have sort of an open-ended end here, where,
But it's not, because Renette just said, if their time is
I
up, she's
understand
gonna
that,
send a
but-
thing saying, we're cutting you off if you don't respond.
but what I'm saying, my suggestion is merely to put some sort, not necessarily dyed in wool, but some sort of an end to it.
But
Okay,
if
your
I can't
suggestion
put
has
it
been
into-
heard, and we cannot
But if I
decide
can't
tonight
put
to
it
change
into
our
the
procedure.
ops issue, then how can I put it into the complainants issue? I don't feel that that's right. If I can't say ops, if you don't respond to me by XYZ time, then I don't feel like I should do that to the
Right,
complainant.
right.
That's not right.
This
No.
is not,
I
Then
think
we
the
ought to
only
figure
way
out
to
some
do
way
that Would be if you
Put a
had
little
some
pressure
leverage,
on the PD.
and
we're
that would be
working
through
with
the
ops to
chief.
get, we've been promised some
Not gonna do it
cooperation.
working with ops, you gotta do
May have
it
to
on
take
your
it a
own.
further step if we don't get cooperation,
But, yeah,
a long,
I think
slow
we ought to
process.
start that way first.
The next thing on the administrator's report,
CRB adopt a block. So in order to try to do some community service in the community, I gave you a list of parks and stuff that seem to have a little bit of trouble staying clean by themselves or with community assistance. So I wondered if you guys as a body, as a group, wanted to decide to clean a particular park. It could be, you know, one in every quadrant, you know what I mean, one time, so that we kinda are seen in each common council district. So that's why I was thinking we could try to do that.
Each district?
Yes, in each common council district, and then one kind of district in terms of we have at large, but, and then in one, somewhere that one of the at-large at-large appointees picks.
Well, let's pick one right now to start with.
So, I gave you guys a list, you can email me back and we can move forward on that as to what park we wanna try to hit. We wanna try to hit in the month of May or the month of June, and let's see what we can do by the end of the year in terms of touching a park.
How soon
What do you
want the
mean
email?
when you say clean a park?
So if there's debris, pick up trash, you know what I mean, things of that nature.
114 Dinamo, does that count as a park?
I was gonna say Sunnycrest is looking awful right by
Is it?
Right, but that's what I'm saying, it's just as a way, as a group, that we are out there as a group,
by my house.
showing that we are, you know, committed to the
Community.
community and things of that nature. That's just my thought, but I don't wanna sign up for a park and it's just me cleaning the park with Emmy.
so
Sorry.
Renee will send out an email.
Got your back.
Reminding board members that this came up in a meeting. Please respond if you feel like you're available.
How
and
soon
we'll
do
take-
you need the email on it?
Just, email me when, before the end of next week, so that we can get moving and
90
kinda.
Okay, before the end of next week.
Did you mention the new recruit class?
No, so the CRB is having a presentation before the new recruit class, and it's gonna be on December the 5th, 2019. I can't remember what time it is, I'll let you guys know, but I want you to kinda know that that's going to happen. And I believe that it's very important so that we can tell the new recruits what the CRB is. And they can have the opportunity at that point in time to ask the CRB what the CRB is and things of that nature. And so if you would like to, I don't know how many are going to be, how many recruits there are gonna be at that point in time. But then we will talk about who can, who's going to attend and all of that kind of stuff, and what we're going to say at that point in time, so that it can be productive as possible, so that we really get them to understand what the CRB is before they hit the streets and learn about it on the other end.
And December 8th is a Thursday. I have it down for 8 to 9 a.m.
Oh, December 5th.
It's on
December 5th, thank
Yes,
you, is a
it's 8 to
Thursday.
9.
So it would also be that evening would be the CRB meeting for September. So it's gonna be a long day for anybody that shows up.
Okay.
8 to 9 p.m.?
Yeah,
8 to
8 to
9
9
9
a.m.
a.m., okay.
Okay, in terms of the PBI invoices, if you look in the folder, you will see the invoices for PIB investigations. They completed 2 cases for us, and you see the total amount of the invoices here. I need a motion to pay their invoices
$497.50?
per case.
Per case,
Per case?
Yes,
lot of money.
Cases did
How
they
many
handle?
cases?
like I said, they worked on 2 cases.
How long did they work?
The dates are on the invoice.
6.5
I can't
hours
find
each.
it. Same.
So 6.5 hours each at $75 per hour.
So we got,
Oh, there's one on the back, too.
Yeah, there's
On the
2,
back.
there's 2
Yeah.
cases. Yeah, front and back.
Can we control?
So you want
I
nine
can't
hundred
control how long it's gonna take them to
$94.
review a case. I know these
Doing
two,
their job.
these two cases, we're looking for the people. I can't find the people, so they spent a lot of time looking for the people. You guys have the case summaries in your folder to review tonight. So you can see the work that they put in for it, and just think about it. If they took 6.5 hours on a case, think about how long it takes me on each case. So let's just put that out there in the atmosphere.
You're cheaper by the hour.
I am cheaper by the hour, but that's what it is. But how much time would it take me on each of these cases if I had to do this and investigate somebody else's?
And do your
It
administrative.
would be more than $497.50.
So,
No, it's $9.95.
yeah.
No, I'm
total.
saying the total, the balance due,
Yes.
it would be
So we gotta
more.
make a motion on this right here?
We need to have a
Balance due
motion
is
and for-
$4.97 on both of them,
Go ahead, Pete.
so it's
Okay,
$9.95.
could someone please make a motion to approve $994,
$95.
I'll make a motion.
$5
I
for
second it.
PIB investigations? Cliff
I'll
made
make a
that
motion.
motion.
And I second the
Cynthia
motion.
seconded
We'll
it.
talk about that in a
Any
minute.
further discussion?
It's too much. We can't afford $1,000 a month.
So currently, we have, and that goes under the rent and professional services market. And if you look in terms of budgetary wise, we allocated $4,500. That's how much we agreed to pay for private investigator services until the budget term ends. So as of right now, we have not spent any of the $4,500, so this would be us spending $1,000 on 2 cases.
And we have to spend it because the common council is letting us know that we need to
Utilize the money that we're.
utilize it or they're gonna take
What's
it.
the end of the fiscal
And I
year?
believe the
June
budget is sort
30th.
of yelling for it too.
June 30th?
Right.
Yes, so we have until
Well, we've got
June.
enough money then, so let's
We've got
pay it.
enough money to pay it, we'll
I
discuss.
second the motion.
And
We're on discussion, but how
I
much?
think
did you
Cynthia
say?
seconded the motion, so
Oh.
we're discussing it right now.
And it falls under what category?
It falls under the rent professional services, it's
Contract.
541,500
Okay,
on the front sheet.
yes,
And you can see how much we have in the budget for that, but we only allocated $4,500 to spend for the private investigator when we went before the council and asked them to approve them. So
Okay.
that total amount includes, this is so Cynthia understands, that total amount includes our, outside counsel, our medical examiner, and our private investigator. In that total amount right there that you see budgeted, $15,303.
Okay.
That includes 3 people.
okay.
Dan, question?
Yes, does this carry over, or do we lose it at
No,
the
we
end?
lose it, it doesn't roll over, so you don't get
Well,
the,
then pay it.
Absolutely.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions?
I'm gonna abstain. It just seems like,
2 abstentions.
who else
Okay.
abstained?
do we have enough to pass the, what was the
Seems
vote?
like too much.
Do it
9 to
again, Dan.
2.
9 to 2. Well, 9 to,
Sounds like a
So
baseball
no.
game.
9 to 2?
9 to 0 to 2.
8 to 2, we have 10 members present.
8 to 2?
Oh, 8 to 2.
8 to 2, okay, all right.
Committee reports. Let's look at committees before we go into reports. There's a sheet near the top of your folder that lists those people we currently have, according to our office staff, we have listed on committees, right here. So, anyone who wants to volunteer for additional committee or be changed, we should consider that right now. The Police Relations Committee, Ruth pointed out that she had been on it, so we'll add Ruth if she wants to be there. That's the 4th or 5th one down.
And what's the operations committee that I'm on?
I don't know, you're it.
There.
So I think that had to do with, the operations of the office and being on whatever committee that had to do with, that's the only thing I could understand. I do remember our old board member Caleb coming up with some descriptions with regard to the committees. That was great, but I'm not sure what the operations committee
I
is
think he
either.
was
I'm not
saying,
either.
Something that we needed.
yeah, he
We
was
need an
saying,
I think we needed an operations committee at that point in time.
right, we're past that now, cause we got,
I'm gonna-
So
I
we
think
have the operations people now.
it's
So
already been taken
we
care
no
of.
longer need that committee, it sounds like to me.
Caleb had a suggestion for rearranging some of our committees, and I think I can find that. I'll look for it, and we'll consider that in the near future. For now, any other changes to the current makeup of these committees? We have some new people, so they can think about what committees they'd like to serve on, but I'd like to not
Why
spend
don't you
much
go
more
over
time
the,
on this tonight.
Okay.
I move we, accept these, committee assignments pending the, addition of new members.
Second, anybody?
I'll second it.
Sounded like a motion to me.
That's what I said.
Okay. Any further discussion of the committee?
I
We'll
have a
bring it back
discussion
shortly.
in regards to it. How can we say we wanna be a participant on the committee when we don't know the details of the committee?
And that's why we're gonna give you some details of the committee, and that's why Peter was talking about, getting that list so that we can understand what each committee does, and we can then see if you wanna join it.
Okay,
And we'll take up whether we want to do the rearrangement that Caleb had he submitted a motion almost 2 years ago, because I had only been on the board for a couple meetings at the time. So I'll pull that up and we'll look at committee descriptions, and we'll
That's the one you
put
should
this on our agenda for next time,
Yes,
with me and
while
Hunter.
we have.
you just wanted to
Okay.
have something there.
Can we get a second on that?
Cliff
Cliff
second.
did.
All in favor for now?
Aye, for now.
We will update soon. Any opposed? Any abstentions? You wanna oppose?
I want an extension.
Okay, one abstention. Thank you.
All right, so I'll start with the community outreach reports. If you look in your folders, you should see you should see different quotes for t-shirts. Holy Shirt is in there.
I saw my,
CNY Uniforms Plus, and also GNL Printing. So if you look at the numbers that have been calculated, it would appear that GNL Printing has the lowest bid, for it. So if you guys agree, we can,
before you agree, I have, another one that I'm gonna send you an email on.
No.
no.
We've been talking about this for 4 meetings.
Yeah, we've been talking about t-shirts for 4 months now.
Let's go ahead and get our
Shouldn't be
shirts.
that hard to
We
get.
don't want anything written on the
You only
back,
got 2, right?
unless you wanna put number 6 on there.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do. We want our, did you see it? Did you see the quote there?
I got them all right here.
Look, that's what
I don't
we-
want that on there. I just want the little thing right here, next to my heart.
See who we are.
We have to take a vote. And that's how we're gonna handle that.
I think the reason behind this is so that people will see what our purpose is, and they're not gonna see that with just a little thing on the.
So which one, let's take a vote on which one are we going with?
So
Can we
it
talk
has-
about it for a minute?
Yes, talk about it, Lori.
Thank you. I got the quotes, and, in addition, Jill and Renette and I and Priscilla were at the youth forum on Saturday, and met Hassan, who other people already know, and I just kinda knew who he was, and 2 of the young men that are in the program with him, and what they do is, when they have the business, he pays the kids to make the shirts and do the prep and everything for that. Having met them, I think that, they do a lot for the community with the kids. The kids are learning a lot. They're becoming entrepreneurs, and I think, as well as the fact that they're the cheapest ones, that we should go with them.
All those in
Can you
favor?
summarize the price difference from the 3 quotes? 'Cause
Yeah, I can tell you what they are. They said $800 for all the shirts. Ty at Uniforms Plus was $1,039 for the same number of shirts. And Holy Shirt was kind of in the middle, I think, between the 2.
Yeah, it was 800 and,
Yeah, they were in between them, right?
yep,
800 and what?
$836.
So 800 from Hassan is the low bid.
It is.
But it's given back to the community.
Yeah.
And what about the quality, Lori?
We saw the shirts on Saturday. They made the shirts for the Layla event. I have one. I can bring it in. If you guys wanna see it, I forgot to bring it, but they
They're-
were
yeah.
good quality
They're good
shirts.
Fading?
You just gotta learn how to wash it though.
Good. A good quality shirts.
It's, the brand is Gildan, which is
Yeah.
a known brand and
Okay, Mr.
Gildan are good
Grinnell.
shirts.
that helps.
You're not gonna get.
I called the people that I know, it's
One we're
Ward,
thinking of?
Sales over on West Fayette Street. I've gotten,
Mr. Grinnell, we have been talking about this for at least 4 months. We'd like to make a decision.
but at the last meeting, I was supposed to bring this information to this meeting, and I'm bringing it now.
Okay.
You're not bringing it now, you don't have the information.
I do, I had it right in my head.
We don't have a quote.
Thank you, sir.
We have
That
3
doesn't work.
bids.
I do have a quote.
With all
Okay, what's the
specific-
$15 a piece.
Well, then that's still more expensive
line.
than what's on here.
We're gonna get 11 of them, that's $555.
That's not true, we're getting
Getting
40
40.
of them.
Why do you want 40 of them?
2 apiece, Sam.
These are, besides, these are not T-shirts. These are golf shirts.
We have that in the quote here too,
Yeah,
40 of them
40
as well.
golf and 40 tee.
And does it make a difference what size it is?
They're all more if it's more than,
And I will say
2X.
DNL printing is still $2 if it's a bigger shirt. Everybody else is between $2.50 and something, $2.50 a shirt. So
I
we
think-
save 50
Size.
cents on that cent.
per
I think
each
the Good Life
size.
thing, the
Yeah.
Good Life shirts are the best option because number one, it's contributing to the youth, it's contributing to the community. So, you know, although, you know,
I give,
I
Make a
respect
motion, I give.
my gentleman board member
I
over
don't,
there.
I give, make a motion.
Cliff,
I move that we go with G&L printing.
And I'll second it.
Cliff will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Really?
Yeah.
Any abstentions? Okay, so the vote was 9-1. You're outnumbered.
No, really?
Sorry for the editorial comment. Next. Anything else on community outreach? Do we have any events
Yeah,
coming up?
so, the bus signs. Jillian, our, intern, will talk about the bus sign and that campaign for community outreach on that event.
Okay.
Everyone, Jillian.
Hi. Okay, so I did a little bit of research based on what Raynette showed me from, I believe the woman's name was Nicole, from the advertising company. And basically the prices she gave us were 35 interior cards, which are like, I'm trying to figure out how to describe it. Like, they have them in the buses, like advertisements inside of the bus. So 35 of those, they're discounting the rate to $20 per card, so it would be $700. And then as well as 5 shelters around the city. So $450 per shelter, which includes the production of it, so basically installing the advertisement as well. And that was $2,250, so the total for both of those would be $2,950, which we were trying to get under $3,000 for that. And then in addition, the shelters, we wanted to put one shelter on, or have an advertisement at one shelter at each side of the city. So we'd have one obviously north, south, east, west. And we also would like to have an additional one on the west side because that is where the majority of our complaints come from in that district. So, and like on top of that, we have one on the west side that's like a little more central, and then another one on the west side that would be a lot further west. So you're kind of getting the whole community rather than one exact like pinpoint. So I have the explanations for each location. One of them is at a hospital, so that would also be targeting people who may have been injured regarding like a police misconduct issue. So that targets that audience. And then we also have one near the SU campus, because I know personally as an SU student, I did not know about the Citizen Review Board, and I definitely think there's a lot of things happening on our campus as well in regard to police involvement other than DPS that I think people should definitely be aware of. So that location is actually like right on, like in the center of campus, which is great. And then the other 2 locations are just very heavily populated areas surrounded by a lot of businesses. So I think those would also be very great locations. Do you guys have any questions for me?
I have a general question. What is gonna be written on this sign?
So the same sign that we have on the, that says concerned about police misconduct, it's the blue sign. It was in your email as well. I don't think we have one printed, but it's our normal one that we have that's laminated,
Concerned
that's at
about police
every outreach
misconduct.
event.
Yes, that we had.
That we hand
Concerned about police
Look at the shirt
misconduct.
thing.
Look at the shirt. Yeah, but it's gonna be that, royal blue and green, which is the same kind of color that we're looking at for the shirt. And that's what it, with white writing, and that's what it says.
And Jillian, everything that you just said about the different locations is included in that 2950?
Yes.
Can I throw something out there a little bit?
Yep.
So the most come from the west side, so we're gonna put 2 there. What about the whole like East Fayette
Yeah, we have
corridor
one,
there?
we have
One's
one there, and remember, it's also on, there's one on Fayette, there's one up there, you got the buses traveling up there, and you have the interior bus signs, and I'm not sure if there was a place that had a shelter. We tried to look at where the
They
shelters
don't have one up
were.
there.
A lot of the shelter locations were on like South Salina and like
Okay, so like up
mainly
that
running
part.
down that street.
When you say, you talk about the bus shelter?
Yes.
The hub thing? I mean, the bus shelter?
We do one at the store up there?
No,
No?
that's private property.
Put a sign in the store up there, right there
I
on
mean,
the
we
corner?
can put, if you ask the business if they would let us put a sign there, we can put a sign in the store. But we can't just we can't make them make a place for a sign,
Okay.
like, so if there's no bus shelter, we can't have the bus company install shelter.
So to clarify what we're talking about,
Right,
on
right.
the inside of the buses, they have the overhead signs,
Yes,
right?
yep,
From inside the bus, you look
Yeah.
up.
yep.
And on the bus shelters, we'd have a large sign for that.
Yes.
We also have a format for 8.5 by 11 printed sign that we
Yes.
could put anywhere on a bulletin board. We have them in the
Yep.
libraries,
Yep.
and some other places like that. So that's sort of 3 types of signs. The 8.5 by 11s are free, we're not paying
Yeah.
for anything with that. But what we're talking about is the inside the bus signs and on the outside of the bus shelters.
So where's the one you referring to on the east side?
Well, we were saying that there wasn't a shelter on the east side for us to put one in, so the only thing that we would count on the fact is that a bus.
That a bus
that's
travels,
traveling
okay.
to the east side would have an interior sign.
I've seen one on Fayette.
There used to be one on Fayette and Genesee Street, but for some reason, I think cause that's the area, there is one. I knew, on East Genesee Street between, Pine and, where Dorsey's Funeral Home used to be. What's the name of that street? Walnut?
Yes.
Walnut there was one right there.
But it's not
So
there.
there is
There's
going
one
to be
right
one
there.
that's on Waverly Ave and Walnut Place, is that close?
Yes.
Well, you
That's
can,
on the east, that's on the east side.
Right up
that's
in the-
on University.
That's right in the university, so if there is another place, so we have $5,100 to spend on this. We're trying to keep it a little bit less, so we're trying to be at 3,000, less than $3,000 on this.
Okay.
If we can locate, well, you'll look at the map, see if we can locate that one that's marked.
When I go home tonight, I'll drive up Genesee Street to confirm if it's still there. It used to be, but I will double check that.
Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll add it to that, that's an extra $450, to get another shelter.
Okay.
If you guys want to do that, you can approve that to, that kind of thing, but we wanna try to move forward as quickly as possible so that by the time the summer hits and the people are riding the buses and things of that nature, people are
Should
out
we
and
appro-
about.
Should we approve what we have right now with the other
Right.
pending?
I would agree
have a
with
Or
that,
do you
question
wanna
for
do it
Jillian.
all at once?
because I don't even think there's one in my
What do
district.
you think,
Terry.
Mr. Chairman?
I suggest we make a motion to approve the amount that would include one more and leave it up to the Community Outreach and Public Education Committee to make a
To
decision.
decide where to put it.
and Find that one.
I agree with you in
We
regards to
authorize
that.
the money.
Whenever you can get somebody else to do it.
That's my
that's the
suggestion.
idea.
Jillian, I have a question for you.
Somebody else to do it, what do you mean?
Did you say that, a billboard was an option?
Not from what they sent us. Basically, it was just you can either put interior cards inside the bus, or you could have like an advertisement on the back, on the side, or the bus shelter. There was no billboard. Strictly for the buses, yeah.
We have an option to do a
But
billboard.
That's why we're leaving money in the budget to do a billboard, but this is just strictly
Central.
related to Central.
Got it.
That's what we're trying to focus on,
Let's
so
go
we
with
can
that
get
for
that
now.
production out, off and rolling.
So could we have a motion?
Sure.
What budget does this come out of?
So that budget comes out of,
Advertising on the thing.
Public relations.
I think it comes out of I wanna say,
Salaries? No.
Yeah, Renette's offered to,
Board member's salary.
I think it might be under operating
Operating
supplies.
supplies.
Yep.
Okay,
And,
yep, that makes
it's gotta
sense.
be underneath that part.
That makes sense.
Board members don't get a salary. Or maybe
The woman at the at the advertising agency, I totally forgot what I was gonna say. She actually skipped me for a second. I'm sorry, I totally forgot.
Guys, it'll come back to you.
Oh, I forgot. You can continue. I'm sorry.
can we have a motion to allocate money?
Yes, I will make a motion that we allocate up to $3,400, for interior cards and a shelter,
Second the motion.
and that would include
Clarification?
finding, the 3,400 includes finding
Okay.
one on the east side.
Lori and then there.
I'll try to look. I think there's got to be one on Fayette or Westmoreland.
They sent us an email with a map of all the locations. So I know you have it, and I have it as well. If you
I
want,
sent
would
it
send
to
that
all the
out.
board members already as well.
So you know.
Oh,
that
okay.
you could look on there to see where the little dots were around.
And in the email, it says the exact number location as well.
The motion is to allocate an amount of money. We will leave it up to community outreach to decide the final decisions
Well,
about
we
how
need to
signs
have
are
it
going.
in the minutes in order for us to submit it, so that it has to have that it's somewhere between 34, you know what I mean?
We should
Like,
put a
so-
limit on it.
3,400 includes adding one more shelter.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I have.
So
Just wanna
We
make
approved
sure.
up to
the motion is to
3,400,
approve $3,400, which would allow one more shelter.
including finding one on the
Any
east side.
further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous.
All right, great.
Okay, anything else from community outreach?
Yeah, we did the YWCA Walk Against Racism Walk, this past month. And we also attended the Youth Summit, and Jill's gonna talk about the Youth Summit, and how that went, and Lori and Priscilla were there as well, and Lori can talk about that. Jillian?
Talking a lot today. This past semester as an intern, I did a lot of research on establishing a youth board. We're brainstorming a better name than that right now. But basically, I looked at other youth boards and I compared it to what we might have because we wanted to include middle school age students as well, rather than high school, because they definitely don't get to have their voices like heard as much. So when we were at the youth summit, we had 13 kids come up and sign up. They seemed all very interested in becoming active in their community. So we plan on emailing them and sending them an application when we create an application. And if you all approve the board, do you want me to talk about the board a little bit?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So basically, with the board, it's to establish like a youth perspective on like your policies, as well as like the community and police relations and misconduct and accountability and all that. So the new board, I'm actually gonna grab this. The new board, the original ordinance references the establishment of a board, but there was never one actually established, and in 2011, in the new ordinance, there's not one stated, but we recognize the need that there is a need for youth perspective. So the structure of our board would basically be a group of 11 young people, ages 12 to 18. They're selected by Raynette or whoever the CRB administrator is in the future. And the board would also approve on it as well. And the application would be available via the CRB website. Basically, these board members will get to educate young community members on police misconduct and advise all of you guys on internal policies and procedures. They will serve the equivalent to one school year and attend meetings. We originally thought coming to this meeting, but seeing that there will be younger children, I wouldn't call them children, younger community members, it might be a better idea to make it earlier. And then on top of it, I also referenced the ordinance, the original ordinance. The new board kind of differs from the original based on the fact that we would have 11 youth members, just like how your board has 11 people on it, rather than 9. and members can apply via the CRB website rather than being drawn from specific schools, so that more people kind of have the opportunity to apply. It's going to be, members shall be between the ages of 12 and 18, and they'll be both appointed by both the board administrator and the board rather than just the board administrator, so you guys all get to vote on it as well. It's a one-year term, and members will not have voting power, but they have the opportunity to participate in civilian oversight, voice their opinions, and that's really it. So basically, Raynette would review all the applications, come to you guys with them, and then, well, she'd originally come to Peter and Hatisha first to talk to them about it, and then present it to all of you guys. And then I have a list of all the potential gains. There's a lot of them. So I have a list of all the potential gains on the back that would definitely enhance the CRB.
And I just want to point out that in 1993, they had something called the Youth Advisory Board. It was there. I have, found some, some sort of sign-in sheets and things of that nature, but I'm not sure how far they really, how far they got. And so, as you know, the Common Council has a youth advisory board that's made up of high school students. And what we were thinking was that those high school students, after they come off the youth advisory board for the council, can kind of be mentors to this group of middle school students to give them some way to give back as well. And at least they have that aspect. But we want to focus on the middle schoolers because, as you know, we have the youngest shooters in the state of New York that come out of Syracuse. So we need to start reaching the youth because they're having more contact with the police than we'd like them to have, but at a younger age. So that's the reason why we're focusing on middle schoolers, as the Common Council has now focused on high schoolers. In our current ordinance, it does talk about a youth involvement, youth kind of enrichment in there. So with that being said, this would fall to me right in that aspect. And it was one of the things that was on my list as being the new administrator that I wanted to try to do, was take us back and reach back to the youth and see what we could do to try to help them as much as possible.
Absolutely.
Can I make a suggestion? To go along with Jill, I think it should be held during the daytime and maybe excused from school, like a.
I know the Common Council does that. We actually, we discussed possibly seeing if that was possible, like if we can make that happen.
That's why we were saying that it would be too late for them to have to do it at this time of night, because we would have to worry about transportation and things of that nature, but during a lunch hour or something of that nature. But we'd have to see how we would do transportation as well if they're coming from different schools, or how. So it's still some logistics to work out, but you're right, like it would have to be during the day where it's not gonna be in the evening where transportation might be more of an issue.
And just to clarify, this is language from '93. When the ordinance was rewritten in 2011, that language disappeared. So there is no current language, is that correct?
There's really no current language, but it does say that there should be some sort of youth component or something of that nature, but it doesn't specify what that is. And that's why we're not really calling it the Youth Advisory Board. We're trying to figure out what would be a good name for some sort of youth, something, to the CRB.
So what are you looking for tonight from the board?
We were just basically, showing you this, presenting it to you. I mean, we have not had the opportunity to, work on a application or anything. We plan on getting a new intern, cause Jillian's last day is going to be Monday. She's leaving us.
So we're gonna have the board in place by Monday.
I'll email you guys.
So it just was so that we would have, something to you so you can start thinking about it. And again, we want to try to get this started, as soon as possible. I mean, so that we can have these things in place by the time September happens. And we know we only meet once a month, so it's just making sure that you guys are on the radar while we start to, do this. And also to see if there was any board member other than Hatisha and Peter that wanted to try to take us, look into this and work along with us with regard to that. That would be something that would be, additional that we would be looking for, because it is a lot to try to do both. So
I
I'll
would
make a
love to
suggestion.
do that.
okay.
With the outreach, with the Know Your Right, either the Know Your Rights presentations and the community outreach, we could try to recruit
Yep, same thing. Yep.
in that regard right there, you
So
know.
at least we wanted to go to the youth summit to at least see if we had some sort of like, okay, would this be something youth would be interested in? You know, that kind of thing. And so when we talked about it, we, like Jillian said, we had 13 students that were a variety of ages in the bracket that were at least interested. So that at least gave us some weight as to, okay, they would like to do this. And I think that it would just be a great opportunity.
Absolutely.
And who also be a good contact would be DECA and the Boys and Girls Clubs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did a presentation to them last month.
Right.
They had some concerns going on, and that's some of the groups that we would like to pull from, you know, as well. And, you know, it doesn't have to be set in stone as to how many, you know, right now we just kind of tried to mimic it as 11 people, but we can kind of have some flexibility if we see that there's a need to be, you know, more than that, because we want to try to reach every side of town.
I think it'd be a valuable asset for them and for the review board as well.
So the intention, your intention would be to have things clarified by the end
Add me
of,
to
over the
it.
next 2 months or so, by the end of the school year, more or less.
Yes,
And we'd implement this starting in September, when school starts up again.
yes. Yep.
Done by Monday.
So people have other questions, concerns, or suggestions?
I have a comment.
Please send, yeah, Lori.
I'd like to thank Jillian, for giving up her
Yes.
Saturday morning to,
No problem, it was close
come
to home.
and repeatedly talk to children about the same thing over and over and over again. I was very surprised at the number of kids that were interested.
Really?
And not only that they were interested, but their level of understanding of what's going on around them. And it was very impressive.
Great, thank you.
They know their rights a little bit.
We would like to thank Jillian for all her service.
Yes.
Very much. Appreciate it.
Anything else from community outreach?
I don't know, I think that's it.
Just, we were invited, by, Purple Gold, which is a caucus from 1199. They're having a community cleanup Saturday, May 11th, if anyone's interested. They're getting the permit, they're getting the supplies, they're just asking for people to show up if they would like
So
to.
it would have to be after
May
our
11th, we
board
booked.
training.
Or is it May the 18th?
Sorry, did I say 11th? 18th?
Yeah,
I'm
she really
sorry.
meant the 18th.
18th.
Oh,
I was gonna say, it says the 18th here, but that's okay.
I don't have my glasses.
Okay.
okay.
We're thinking the 11th because it's such an important date.
Is that downtown living?
All right, anything else from community outreach? Board developments and training, May 11th. Government relations,
We haven't had any meetings with anybody from the government, so we haven't had any meetings that we haven't already discussed with the mayor's office, so that would be government relations, so I think we can move on.
There's a panel discussion on the 30th up at OCC with Rachel May that I'll be on.
what's it about? What's it about?
It's gonna be pertaining to violence in the community.
You said May 30th?
Yep, up at OCC.
Okay. We'll just put that on there, and then if you can get us some more information, that'll be great, send it to us all in an email, and then we can see. Yeah.
Police relations, police liaison committee, we have already talked about, covered that. New business, community organizations,
Nobody's here, so we can pass on that.
fine. Okay, we'll have, any members of the public wish to speak? Thank you for coming. Would you like to introduce yourselves and tell us your interest in the CRB?
Oh, sure. So my name is Sarah Kors. Actually, I know Renette for I don't know how many years now. Enough, yeah. I work
Sarah, what was your last name?
Kors, like the beer,
Okay.
but spelled differently. I work as a sign language interpreter in the community, and I'm also an MSW student at Syracuse University. Much of my work as a sign language interpreter is the intersection between mental health, addiction, and the criminal justice system. And yeah, so.
Review board, could use that right now.
So yeah, I don't know if anybody has any questions for me. Feel free to ask. I'm kind of a open book.
Resources in the community of the board, see?
Great, thank you for
Absolutely.
coming.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we are about to take a motion to adjourn to executive session so that we can discuss our cases for tonight. Thank you for members of the public for coming. Thank you for all your work, and we'll see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Adjourn to the
Thank you, Sarah.
This is awful that we have to do that.
All right, are you gonna go to the Harry Williams thing? It's at the Red House. Yeah, it's supposed to be till 7:30, and I'm not gonna make it. Can you roll through there? Just like 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes. Yeah, just at the Red House, and, apologize, tell them my meeting's running a little later. All right. See you on
Nice getting to meet all you guys.
Nice meeting you, Jill.
Joanne.
Good luck in New Jersey.
It's over at 7:30, so I mean, by the time I get there,
Take it home and shred it.